Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us in the world. Welcome to the European Sit Down. My name is Bruno. This is my co-host, Jonathan. How are you, mate?
Good, buddy. What an amazing couple of weeks it's been since we've last been on together. Far out, lots happening in the world of football, that's for sure.
Yeah, lots is happening in the world and lots is happening in the world of football. This is Football Worldwide. If you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe button because there will be some cracker content coming to you. Not just domestic football, but we'll be bringing you some really good exclusive World Cup commentary and football when the time does come. So do stay tuned to that and make sure you do hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with everything football worldwide. Let's get into it. So, the English Premier League. Before we get into the Champions League, we'll talk domestic. The English Premier League last weekend drew to a halt. The passing of the Queen, and that basically just stopped everything, all things football in England this weekend. So there isn't anything to report from there. There will be some Premier League fixtures coming up this weekend, but we will have. There are a couple of fixtures. Ian Kerr in the chat. Thank you. Hope you're doing well as well, all the way from Ireland, I believe. Yeah, Ireland. So the Manchester United fixture is postponed due to the funeral of the Queen, as well as the Chelsea-Liverpool fixture postponed yet again. So interesting there. Graham Potter, his first match in charge was in the Champions League, and we will come to that, but it'll be good to see what he can do domestically. Serie A, Jonathan. Serie A, everything's happening there. We've had some ups, some downs, but it's a lot more competitive than what everyone thought. And, Atalanta, they were in first, Napoli in first, everyone's sort of jumping in the lead here, there, and everywhere. Napoli, Atalanta, and Milan all sharing the spoils up top there. But between first and sixth, it's only 2 points.
Mate, this league, which is a personal favorite of ours, it's just end to end every week. When you're saying like you did, Napoli's at top, Atalanta at top, Udinese in the top four. Just results coming left, right, and center. A lot of upsets. Juventus not able to get the win over Salernitana over the weekend. Dramatic scenes at the end. But to be 2-0 down at halftime to Salernitana, last year's relegation battlers, where they only made it on the last day, it's just not a position they can put themselves in. But in saying that, just this league is just non-stop this year. Got to be the most competitive league in the world at the moment because, yeah, it is, Bruno. Think about it. How many points is
it? Germany? Have you looked at Germany?
No. I'll tell you why. Between first and 10th is only 5 points. So put that into this. No, it's not.
First and ninth, 4 points.
4 points. There you go. So first and 9, 4 points. Like, where is that ever happened? I know we're only 6 games in, but it's just not known. Hey, I got to do a little shout out for a couple of my mates up the road. Chichi, Pete, and Eddie up the road. Love you guys. Can't wait to see you boys. We'll talk soon.
Now, managers across Italy have been criticised as of late. We'll talk Juventus when we talk Champions League, but for those who have seen me on Inter Worldwide, I'm quite passionate for my beloved Inter, as you can see behind me. Inzaghi has really dropped the ball, and you can't really say it's Lukaku injury thing. It comes down to just Inzaghi as a manager. When Conte was at the club, the players were on that pitch for Conte. They would go to war for this man. Whereas Inzaghi is too timid. Now, albeit the owners have really held him back, and don't get me started on the owners, and I've mentioned in previous streams, and Ian Kerr was nice enough to join us in this stream, but it's one of those things where they need to go. But from a team which, has been up top for a couple of seasons, and just to see the struggle, I feel other than Juventus, Inzaghi is probably at risk. But due to monetary constraints, there's really nothing the club can do. So he really needs to change his game, and he really needs to step it up. I'm not going to go any more into it because I get too passionate, and we're not here just to talk about. Anthony has dropped into the chat. Great to see you on the other side of the fence for once, Anth. It's very rare he's in the chat and not in the actual videos. But yes, Milan, Napoli, both teams on 14 points. They're probably one of my games of the week this week, if not the game of the week, because my other game was Chelsea-Liverpool, and that's no longer going ahead. So who walks away with the points here, Jono?
Before we keep going, a couple of things. Guys, we've got a few people in the chat here. Let's drop some comments there. We want to see. Let's get this chat pumping. We'll get some questions going for me and Bruno. We've got a lot to cover tonight. So, Bruno, as you said, the points in this one that Anthony's brought up, Milan-Napoli. At the moment, it's a little bit tit for tat, but I'm going to have to go with Napoli purely for the fact that Leao is out from suspension. And he's their biggest strike weapon. Napoli are just on form at the moment. Had a great win in the Champions League again. Beat Liverpool last week in the Champions League. They're just flying at the moment. And they've gotten rid of the deadwood in the off-season of some of their older players, which they needed to. And, you got to give it to them. Geez, they're just absolutely flying at the moment. Frank, I want to put a message on that too. I want to jump on the back of that in a minute, but let me continue.
Tuning out.
Let me continue with that. So, mate, Napoli are just absolutely flying, and you got to give it to the manager. I've just lost his name, for Spalletti, that he's just done an absolute brilliant job with this team. But we do know Napoli start well at the beginning of the seasons, as they did last season, and as his teams normally do. Will they have the firepower to continue it, to follow it to the end of the season? We don't know yet. Yet to be seen.
Hamza's quote here, and they have depth that we haven't seen in previous seasons. They've gotten rid of some egos that have held them back in previous seasons. And not just that, they have had one of the most underrated transfer windows where everything happened without noticing. And it really just changed it all. And it just really... you can see the dynamic there at Napoli is absolutely changed. But let's not dwell too much on Napoli either. Anthony, he's in the chat. He's dropping facts. It's also Roma versus Atalanta. I will run with this one here. Atalanta are equal first at the moment on 14 points, but they just look to be similar to Inter. They can beat the bottom teams, but they struggle. And we've seen it with Gasparini's boys, and time again, we've waited for them to drop off. They did last season. I just feel that Roma, if they really want to catapult their season and get into a good rhythm right before international break, this is the fixture they need to win. But in saying that, upon return from international break, it is Roma versus Inter. So they could really get a massive 6 points in the context of the title race. And by the time that fixture's over, being only 8 games in, it will be quite interesting, to say the least. Some comments here going strong. Frank, Napoli looks scary. I wish Inter had some of their passion. I think we all wish any club you support really had the passion that Napoli have at the moment. Hamza, yes, this is the best squad. You could argue that his Roma squad in 09, 10, 08, 09 was pretty decent, but this is probably the most time he's had to mold the squad, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And our man Ian, he'll be at Inter versus Roma, which will be a fantastic fixture. The team Dybala, apparently signed for, and the team Dybala actually signed for. I can really see this being cracker. But Mourinho returning to the San Siro yet again, it's always something special. To be at that fixture alone will be something special. Mourinho has a very deep-rooted respect for the club and the city.
I want to talk about this for a sec because I haven't had my 2 cents on this. So we have a strong interconnection on this channel, as you guys know, which is why we love you guys and all that too. Here's my 2 cents on it. Inzaghi's problem is the fact, yes, he doesn't have the squad as what Conte did back in the day and this and that. Inzaghi, to me, cannot get the motivation and the passion out of these players what other coaches do. I employ people in my workplace. That being the case, if they're a bit down, I'm the person that has to get them on board and get them to perform for work. To me, Inzaghi's not doing that. We look lackluster. We look uninterested. They don't even look like they even want to be there. And to me, that's back on the manager. If you can't motivate your players or your team to do what they need to do, that's half your job gone. It doesn't matter who you have on the park. If they're not willing to ship up and show themselves, these are professional people at the end of the day. So, you know what? I had enough of this whole Inzaghi, this and that, whatever. I think he's just to me, he's out of his depth. He's been a mediocre coach, and I think he's just on that way. I don't think he's going to improve and take Inter to where they need to be. That's just my 2 cents on it, guys.
Look, I think it's a very valid 2 cents, but at the same time, you've left out a big factor, and that's ownership. And ownership really restricted him. He was promised
I
A, B,
agree,
C,
Bruno.
and D. He was
I
promised
agree.
Dybala. He was promised Bremer. He was promised Skriniar wasn't going anywhere. He was promised everything. And we missed out on Dybala. Free. We missed out on Bremer. Sorry. So,
Okay, let me take it back for 1 sec.
I just
Okay.
think as a manager, when you've promised stuff,
Yep.
and those promises aren't fulfilled, you really look weak in the eyes of the players. Because
I
it's like, well,
agree.
if Conte was here, it'd be something different.
No,
So,
but the thing is, Conte's not here. He walked out, and I don't blame him.
no,
But
yeah,
what I
but
want to say, hold on, I just want to stop you for 1 sec. What I want to bring up is compare Inter squad last year to Milan squad. On paper, we were the better squad. But what was the difference between, what was the difference between Milan and Inter? They had a manager that made that team fight for each other and performed as a team instead of a bunch of individuals. And we had that mid-season slump, which ended up costing us the Scudetto at the end of the
they
year.
had a manager, but Inter also had massive blows right at the deadline day where Lukaku walked out, and all of that sort of stuff really, really just blew everything out of whack.
But we
And
were still better enough to win the Scudetto. We should have won it, in my
yeah,
opinion.
look, I'm
No
not denying,
excuse.
but when you got a player like Ibrahimovic and a retirement village player like Giroud who is popping up and scoring left, right, and center, you really it is tough, and the Milan wanted it more. There's a comment here
Okay, I
from
can keep
Andrew.
going, but let's move on.
Yes, there's a comment here from Andrew Morozov. What's the latest with Chelsea management since it's been stripped from Abramovich? Will that ever hand it back to him? Well, no, they can't hand it back to him because he actually sold the club, and that those new owners have come in, they've stepped up, they've made their stake clear, and they've announced to the world that they're the new owners of Chelsea. And in saying that, their really big announcement was, well, we're getting rid of Tuchel because he doesn't want to listen to us. So if he doesn't want to listen to us, we're his boss. He can get out. Oh, I was going to use other words there. Inzaghi out is stupid. He's been yes, and this is what the point I'm trying to make. And you know what? Managers are starting to cost clubs way too much. Spalletti was an Inter manager for that long, and I think we went through two managers until he could sign for a new club because we were still paying him on the books. So hands down, boys, bring back Totti. loving the comments today, guys. You need to
That's
get
my
100%
boys.
out of what you have, make it work. We ain't getting 60% out of the squad. Yes, that is true. How much? I can't tell you the exact price. Google will be able to give you a really good figure on that.
I think it was
Because
4 billion. They
there
bought it
you
for.
go. There you go. And the last comment we'll go to is Ian Kerr. Completely agreed. It's up to Inzaghi to get the guys up for gaze. To me, he's a provincial manager, did well at Lazio, but results and performance more magnified at top clubs. And that is a comment which I will bring up when we talk about Chelsea. That is for sure. 16 minutes in, and we've really only covered the Serie A. Let's keep and yeah, Ian,
Guys, before that, guys,
obligatory
make
Sunil
sure,
outpost.
guys, like the video for us, share it around. Let's pump this channel up. We need to get more subscribers and likes on this. So do us a solid and get that happening for us. Like the video. Go.
Okay, La Liga, it is tight. And Barcelona, Real Madrid, back up top where they belong.
As I told you before, Real Madrid are the only perfect team in the top 5 leagues, which is still a perfect win record out of everyone else. Everyone else is at least drawn or dropped points. So Real Madrid, the only one still there.
6:45 a.m. here. Glad to have you jump in on the stream, Gio.
My man.
What an honor. 6:45. Where's that? That's what 10 hours behind us. So
you're in where are you,
London?
Gio? London or the States? England or the States?
I don't know.
Let us know.
Why are we acting like we're geography teachers here, just guessing? Yeah, look, it could be anywhere. But let us know where you're from. Yeah, Real Madrid, the only perfect team. And their manager, New York, he's from. There you go. Mystery solved.
Big apple.
Only perfect team. But Barcelona have really stepped it up. Like I said multiple times, since Xavi's joined this team, it's a new gear. This transfer market has been phenomenal for them. Somehow they haven't been slapped with a transfer ban of any form. But is it just going to be a 2-horse race like we've become accustomed to in the La Liga? Yeah, it's been tighter the last couple of years, but it looks like these 2 clubs are the 2 clubs which are going to run away with it. Atletico dropping points. Sevilla are really struggling. So
Sevilla's lost too many players in the off season, and it's when you're using your best center back and all that, it's pretty hard to come back from there. Good on you, Gio. Good luck at university today, buddy. Make sure you study hard.
Yeah, so is it really a 2-horse race?
Yeah, definitely. Because as far as it is, you look at the off season in transfers that Barcelona had, and like you mentioned before in regards to their money and why they were able to spend so much. So they were negative $150 million in debt, and pulling all those levers that their squad did. They were actually, their transfer amount that they were allowed to spend was 640 something million. So that's,
that includes wages as well. That includes
exactly. So that is a massive turnover. What they've done in regards to selling the shirt sponsor with Spotify, selling the naming rights for the Camp Nou, and selling their broadcasting rights and so forth for future income. But to answer your question, Bruno, 2-horse race, yes, pretty much. No one's gonna in the La Liga is gonna be able to compete with these 2 with the squads that they got. Real Madrid losing Benzema last week in the as they did. He's only out for a short period of time. He'll be back after international break, so not too big of an issue. And they're still getting the job done in the Champions League as well. They're just too good. They are literally just a team that is just way too good and can just perform. When you've got that Real Madrid badge on your shoulder, on your chest, guys, this team just performs to an absolute next level. The history and the credibility of what they do for the rest of the for what this club means to them. Look at the players that they signed in the off season. Rudiger, Alaba in the last season and all that. They just wanted to go to Real Madrid for the sake of playing for Real Madrid. There are only a few clubs in the world that have that pool, and Real Madrid's just one of them. With Carlos Ancelotti there, and they, winning all they did last season, they're just going to go from strength to strength. Guys, 10 in the chat, like and sub. Come on, make me happy. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Bruno.
While John was ranting on about the likes and subs, let's move to what we all thought would have been a one-horse race. And it's actually become extremely more competitive with 4 points dividing places 1 through to 6, and Union Berlin sitting on top on 14 points. The Bundesliga has shaped up to be what is one of the most interesting and, to the punters, one of the most costly leagues because Bayern Munich are slipping week in, week out. I think this may be one of the worst starts to the season they've had in a very long time, with 6 matches down, 3 wins, 3 draws. And it's 3 consecutive draws as well. So they've dropped 6 points in the space of 3 matches. But is this just an anticlimax before Bayern Munich just take off, or is this something where Germany's figured out this team?
No, I think it is just an anticlimax. Like take last week's match day into consideration. Bayern Munich had rested Sane, Mane, and a few other their top strikers. They were their top players, which they were ready to go for the Barcelona game yesterday. So that being the fact of the matter, you're saying that they've dropped points, Bruno, but it's 3 wins and 3 draws. Yeah, look at who's on top: Union Berlin and Freiburg, 2 of the more smaller clubs in the Bundesliga.
Union Berlin and Freiburg are the smaller ones, but at the same time, I think those 3 draws, the one thing that was missing from this squad that they were used to, ciao papa, the one thing that they were missing was Lewandowski popping up, getting that ball in the back of the net. Dortmund, they most recently lost to Red Bull. What were they missing? That firepower up front, Erling Haaland. Now, anticlimax, sure, you can adjust these players. You didn't see Bayern Munich resting Lewandowski last season when there was Champions League because there isn't the trust in these newer players. But I don't know. Yeah, they can afford to drop some points because at the end of the day, they are the strongest club there. But they can't continue to go on this form, I don't know the last time they've had a start after 6 games and they've only gotten full points out of 50% of the fixtures. Because you've got to remember, 50% of the fixtures they've dropped points in. So, yeah, it's 3 draws, but this isn't the Bayern we're used to domestically. And when we talk Champions League, the result isn't really what happened in the fixture. So, I don't know. I think they should. The caliber and the quality of the team they have should get them across the line, but interesting.
They're just too strong of a club to not be contending but come the end of the season. They're internationals, all of them. They're just so good that, look at the money they spent on that young kid in the off season, the youngest scorer in the Bundesliga, and he's 17. And it just an amazing talent.
Jono, let me just throw it back to 2015-16, a small team called Leicester, and we kept saying that they're gonna drop. Is it possible?
Anything's possible in football. Let's be perfectly honest. Anything is possible, but in the Bundesliga, I highly doubt it. I could be completely wrong, and I will be the first to admit if I am wrong. And if I am, then you know what? Maybe we'll do something for our subscribers. I don't know. I'll think of something out. But if Bayern Munich don't win the Bundesliga by the end of this season, I will be highly surprised. I just don't see it happening. They're just too good. They're just too good of a club. And we're only 6 games in. Remember, Bruno, we've said this a couple of times now. This season is going to be like 2 tournaments before the World Cup and then again after. And we don't know how all these players are going to come back after the World Cup. A lot of the bigger teams will have their bigger firepower players which have played and probably gone deep into the World Cup, which may be an advantage to the smaller teams which won't have all of their bigger names in the
Well, look at a
World Cup.
squad like Italy not making the World Cup. What it does for, and you would have seen this on European on Serie A Roundtable. Adam was mentioning a team like Roma, where they've got a very Italian core. Well, they're not going to have the stress and the pressure of potential injuries. And Ian's really stepped it up for us here. PSG should win it, and I think we all called it. But Marseille, they're looking good as well, and they can go toe to toe with PSG. Anything's possible in this league with Marseille, but you just feel it would be, I don't know, a crime for PSG not to win it with the squad they've got.
For PSG not to win their domestic league, the Ligue 1, it's nothing to them. Their focus is just on Champions League. But that being the case, it's a given that they're expected to win their domestic league and their domestic cup. When they lost it when they didn't win it a couple of years ago to Nice, that was Lille. Sorry, thank you, Bruno. That was a surprise in saying it, and then to lose their domestic.
Then they went and bought Donnarumma, Messi, Ramos. We can't have that happen again.
And only spent 80 million, which was just on one player, Hakimi. Remember, so the rest were all free transfers, Bruno. So
yeah,
look, yeah, it's definitely been a very the German league's definitely one of those ones. But yeah, as Ian has said it, let's jump into the Ligue 1 and have a quick discussion about it. Pretty much as you've covered it, PSG are pretty much favourites to win it. Marseille have been very surprising in how good they have been going. And also the team that's in third there at the moment, Bruno, I can't remember. Sorry, who was it?
Lens.
Yeah, Lens. They've actually really been performing well. I've watched a couple of their games, and they are really going quite well as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be Michael Jordan sponsors part. Air Jordan is a jersey sponsor for PSG. Yeah. I'm not sure, though. I am not sure if that entitled him. The partnership there was a percentage of PSG's earnings, but I highly doubt it. But the Air Jordan is a Nike, I think it is.
Yeah, Andrew, because they've got they run a lot of his the Air Jordan merchandise with the PSG kits and all that. So yeah, there will be.
And their jerseys are clean.
Oof! I can't wait till 2 hours come in, mate. That's for sure.
I'm definitely getting some. But yes, look, we're talking champions. We're talking who we think are going to win. So let's get into the UEFA Champions League. We just had match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League come and go. And it was very interesting, to say the least. So we'll start like I did last time with Group A. We had Napoli sitting on top of Group A with 2 wins. They defeated this morning the Rangers. And it was a comprehensive win. So they beat Liverpool last week 4-1, +3 goal advantage there. They beat Rangers 3-0, another +3. And, albeit they scored 3 goals after a red card and they missed a penalty. We're both doing the same thing here. It's not easy, and they did miss a penalty again, like they did last week. But at the same time, they needed a player to be sent off. Can this Napoli not just get out of the group stage, but can you see them potentially pushing for a semi-final appearance potentially? Because at the moment they're looking like the hottest team in Italy to feature in this competition at the moment.
Yeah, look, semi-final appearance. I don't know. Look, it all comes down to the draw that they get. And at the moment, they're sitting in first. Liverpool's in second. Ajax is in third. Liverpool and Ajax are both on 3 points each. Rangers are probably going to finish bottom as that stands. So it all comes down to the draw that they're going to get and who they're going to come up to in the next round. If they could definitely, in the round of 16, win both ties and then go into the next round after that, I don't know. They definitely could. Do they have the depth to go further than that? And
I think
again, you got to
World
be
Cup
lucky with the
is going to
draw.
play a big part in all of this. World Cup and how players come out, because World Cup's a different competition, and you see players leave their heart and soul on that pitch, and broken legs, season-ending injuries, and stuff like that. Anything is possible. Historically, Napoli fall away, but they've replaced their big players very well. So maybe we'll see a change. And everyone, it's the same consensus. This is a different Napoli. Let's go to the second match of Group A. That was Ajax versus Liverpool. Liverpool leaving it very, very late to get the job done. I think it was the 89th minute. And the statistics say they dominated, but we know a game's not won on statistics. Are we looking at a Liverpool who's falling away, drifting away? And I can see in Hamza's DP there, the Liverbird, never walking alone. Are Liverpool going to be walking on their own to the Europa League? Is this something? Because I remember when we did the draw, I said to Akil, I see Napoli and Ajax going through and Liverpool struggling. And they did against Napoli, that's for sure. And they got lucky, to say the least, against Ajax. They played one game of football, one half of football, that is. And there you go, Hamza. Second half, they played well. Salah was...
Hamza. Yeah,
You know,
Hamza, you're right there. They did play well the second half, but let's be honest, this Liverpool this season is not what they have been or what we have known in previous seasons. Are they missing Mane to that extent? I don't know. You'd probably be a better person as you support them better than what we do. Nunez up front, is he not on the ground running of what we expected him as yet? And he's probably still got to adjust to the Premier League, and rightly so. He's still a raw product. He's not the finished product like you could compare to Haaland and all that, and he's still got a massive ceiling to go as yet, but he's not of that caliber as yet. That being the case, your midfield is letting you down, or they have been letting you down. But I also think that presence at the front with Mane not pushing back and starting the press and defending from the front is allowing your midfield to get found out. And let's be perfectly honest, without Van Dijk being finally getting found out for some of his flaws, because was he protected in previous seasons from such a good midfield? So Hamza, let us know. What do you reckon in regards? Are Liverpool going to perform? Are they going to get out of the group, or are they going to be going down to Europa League?
I don't know, but let's move on to Group B, where we have a surprise leader in this group. And Ian touched on it earlier. Club Brugge on 6 points, leading the group after belting Porto in Portugal, after beating Leverkusen 1-0. The team who was in pot 4, whatever you want, pot 4, leading the group, a very, very prominent view on this club. And normally they're a walkover, and they just seem to be gelling at the moment. You know, Atletico Madrid and Leverkusen, Atletico beat Porto last week. They lost to Leverkusen this morning. Leverkusen lost to Club Brugge. So you're expecting Club Brugge to beat Atletico. I don't know if you look at the way that stuff works. But in the same context, this is Champions League. And this is what we love to see. And I don't know. Do I think Club Brugge are going to cause much of a threat anywhere outside of the group? Definitely not. But I've seen stranger things happen. I'll skim through to the next one. Atletico Madrid, they fell at the hands of Bayer Leverkusen. What do you have to say about that?
Atletico Madrid playing boring football like they always do. Simeone got them playing terrorist football, as some of us pundits or whatever like to say. They are just such an eyesore, to be perfectly honest. And Griezmann once again coming off on after the 60th minute, as he's been doing all season long, just so they can get out paying an extra 40 million to Barcelona by the end of the
There's
season.
going to be lawsuits coming. We'll keep you in the loop.
What can, in all seriousness, Barcelona can't say shit purely for the fact that they've inserted this clause into the contract.
But he played more than 30 minutes of fixture last season. So
but they're only talking about, this is the second, they're only talking about for the second year loan of this one.
I don't know. I don't know how it's gone, but I have seen rumors that they do have a case and they are pushing it forward to Atletico. But let's move on. Group C, a lot of our fans here are in love with Group C because of our.
Let's have a little quick debrief, Bruno. Let's have a little quick debrief. Bayern and Barcelona yesterday, cracking game, absolute brilliant game. Such a entertaining game in the sense of two highly competitive, just such a good game to watch. Barcelona should have been up 2-3-0 in the first half, but their star striker from Bayern Munich, Robert Lewandowski, could not put his chances away. Not sure if you had a chance to catch this one, mate, but it was a brilliant first half, and then Bayern Munich just punished them in the second half.
Look, on Barcelona standards, only conceding 2 to Bayern is a fantastic result for them because they conceded 10 in the previous 2 fixtures. In the same essence, I do feel sorry for Barcelona. I just feel they've got this. They've got the image in the back of their mind that they can't overcome this hurdle, and doesn't matter how bad or good Bayern play, Barcelona aren't going to be able to get past that. And I just feel Lewandowski, he's been such an icon for Bayern Munich. It's sort of, playing in his mind. There was some great memes going around saying Müller putting through a fantastic assist for Lewandowski because he's still got that chemistry going. But Barca did not deserve to lose 2-0 based on the first half.
But it's a 90-minute game.
Football's a game of 2 halves, and when the chances did come, Bayern knew what to do. Leroy Sané, this is his Champions League, and the rest of the teams are just playing in it at the moment. He had a great goal against Inter. He was the reason for the own goal against Inter last season, and then the last week. And then this morning, yesterday morning, he played phenomenally. As a Manchester City fan, I hated to see him go, but it did take him a bit of time to fill these shoes at Bayern Munich, and he's doing an amazing job. This player is absolutely phenomenal for this club. And it's funny. I'm just reading Ian's comment because...
That's okay. I wanted to just talk about this next one.
Yeah, so before we talk about that one, let me just bring up Ian's because we will touch on this in another video we do down the track. No love for UEFA Barcelona. How they've been allowed to replace an entire team with their debts is a joke, while meanwhile other clubs have been fined FFP. Ian, on paper, this does not look good. But Barcelona had a lot of physical assets that they utilized to make money off last season. And I had a skim over their financial reports that were handed to UEFA for financial fair play. The naming rights on the jersey for Spotify was a ridiculous amount. I don't remember off the top of my head. Camp Nou, a ridiculous amount.
I'm pretty sure the Spotify was 200 million.
Yeah.
I think the Camp Nou was a 500 or 3 to 500 million.
That was stupid figures.
And then the TV rights was another 300 to 400 million. So that's how they were able to generate the revenue.
Absolutely stupid figures. And what's happened is they owned all of these physical assets and they had this leverage. And the name Barcelona comes at a nice tax to anyone who wants to be involved. And that's what's happened. Now, if they did that all above board, we'll find out in 2 to 3 years, because that's when you start to see the fines coming through and the investigations finalizing and all of that. But it's amazing what happens when you own your own stadium, and what happens when you own you could pick who you want on your jersey, and you're not shuffling around for a 20 million a season deal. And Hamza did say other clubs will not be allowed to do that. Yes, if you own your own assets, you can do it. If you own your own assets, you can generate. But you're about to talk about
Hamza, I wanted to bring up this comment before. Now, this is where there were some questions brought up about Xavi being somewhat of an inexperienced manager. Playing Kunde as a the right back in this game showed a lot of inexperience, because Kunde is known as a centre back. So that being the case, there was a lot of space to cut in between. Kunde should have known when the team was coming down the left, and the whole team got dragged to the left, the back line of the Barcelona team. Kunde hugged on the right hand side because he's like, no, this is my position. I'm supposed to stay here. That allowed Sane and Mane to get in behind and to penetrate them vertically, which allowed a lot of space in between, and they were able to penetrate and get those goals on target. So that was the main thing I wanted to bring up that you brought up, Hamza. Great point to bring up, and I'm glad you did.
Yes, fantastic point to bring up there. And the other fixture in the group was Inter travelled to the Czech Republic to face on Victoria Plzeň. They won a lackluster fixture 2-0. Nothing really exciting there, other than the statistic of Inter the first team to beat them at home in 20-something fixtures. But then again, how competitive is their league if that's the case? Wasn't a good fixture, to say the least.
No,
but
Inter were in second gear. I think they.
Pardon?
Yeah, sorry. I think you're right. They didn't even break a sweat. They only ran something like 80-something kilometers for the match. So that was pretty much a training session for Inter.
Yeah, and, it just shows the caliber of this Champions League squad in Victoria Plzeň. They're facing Slavia Praha in their next fixture, which is probably a tough fixture. But even in qualifying to get into the Champions League, they faced FC Sheriff, which we saw in Inter's group last season. And then Qarabag FK, which is from, don't know what league, some league, Azerbaijan league. And Ian hit the nail on the head. It was like a preseason fixture, this game. So not really going to dwell on this fixture, because really nothing
we've covered.
We've about.
It's been covered long.
Go into Worldwide, and I'm sure they'll have some great content there for you. But let's move on to Group D. Sporting Lisbon pulled it out this morning against Antonio Conte's Tottenham and just caught them by shock. 2 goals in the last 2 minutes. Just put them in the back foot.
Yeah, this by all means looked like it was going to be a 0 or draw. Nothing was really happening. You thought Tottenham were cruising. They had everything under control. We're happy to take the draw. And then out of nowhere, Sporting just turned it on and said, thank you, we'll take the 3 points and go top of the table.
Yeah, look, it was a very close fixture. But at the same time, they just fell asleep. And once they conceded the first goal, they were just in shock. And within 2 minutes, the second goal came. Frankfurt, last year's winners of the Europa League, I believe. Yes. Last year's winners of the Europa League defeated Marseille to register their first win of their campaign in the Champions League. So Sporting on 6 points, Tottenham and Frankfurt on 3 points, and Marseille yet to leave the bottom of the table. Group E, we saw Italian champions face Dinamo Zagreb and win that fixture 3-1. I don't know what to say about this fixture because it's Dinamo Zagreb, but all credit to AC Milan for maintaining it and getting their feet running. Rafael Leao, I didn't actually catch too much of the fixture, but I did read a couple of articles that said Leao was just all over the park and Theo Hernandez was all over the park. But overall, they did what they needed to do against a team like Dinamo Zagreb.
I actually didn't catch this one as well. I only saw the mini highlights as well. But I think Hamza's got us covered there. Milan weren't great. Leao seemed to be poor. I think obviously he did what he needed to. Obviously he won't be playing on the weekend as mentioned previously. But it is what it is. But Bruno, in saying that, you need to take into consideration Dinamo Zagreb last week. They beat Chelsea. And I know this Chelsea team's a nothing team, but still, they were supposed to be finishing bottom of this table. And at the moment, they're sitting in second position with Salzburg and Chelsea sitting bottom of the table, which is the next game I wanted to cover, Bruno, which was Graham Potter's first match in charge of this Chelsea team. And straight off the bat, I have no idea what he was doing with this lineup, to be perfectly honest. I don't know how he just did what he did. Playing, you want to take it over with that one, mate? I think you caught a bit more of this one than me.
So, when they showed the lineup on the screen, it showed Sterling playing a wing-back position. And I was like, what? He's actually been one of the most consistent scorers for Manchester City, the current, Premier League champions, and for Chelsea. So why are you putting him in a wing-back position? But then when I looked at the app, it showed a different formation. So I was curious, but I feel sorry for Potter because he doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. And his first match in charge is a Champions League fixture. But I'll say this again, and I'll say this over and over. Potter is not a manager for Chelsea. Potter is a manager for Brighton whose target was to finish mid-table and not get in a relegation battle. You can't go from that to a manager who is expected to win titles and go deep in the Champions League and challenge for the Premier League. You can't go from managing a team where you've got players who are just happy to be playing in the English Premier League alongside of Manchester United and Liverpool to a team like Chelsea where there's these egos and these entitled players. You need a dominant manager who can put a firm hand over these players. And I just feel Potter needs to assert his dominance ASAP. And I don't know. I just feel sorry for him because this wasn't the game he should have been. Should be his debut as a Chelsea manager. But they managed to get 1 point, which is a point better than what they did last week.
See, I'm looking forward to covering his matches a bit more as he gets his himself fitted into the squad, into his surroundings and all that. I think Potter actually has a lot of potential as long as he has the backing of the club and the management to give him the time of what he needs to. He's been thrown into the deep end with this team and taking over Tuchel. He's got a squad that he only knows one player from previous, which Chelsea bought from Brighton, Cucurella, and that being the case, like Hamza said before, on the app it was showing a 4-2-3-1. I think that was a similar formation to what he was playing with Brighton as well. No, sorry, they were playing a 3 at the back with Brighton as well, I think. So I don't know if he's going to keep to that or if that was just something he wanted to do for this match. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I know the club's already said if he does not make the top 4 this season, he will not be sacked and he will be given the time with the actual. Well, mate, they've got a
There's
very
too
rich
much
owner.
money in the Premier League to make the top 4, and
Exactly.
I'm sorry,
They got a lot of money.
they sacked Tuchel without having an owner lined up,
Yeah.
a coach lined up, and that's as simple as that. No expectations, no disappointment. Okay, as an owner in that scope of things, yes, keep an eye on it. Cristiano Ronaldo might be making an appearance for Chelsea come January because that is
I
one of
think
the
he
main
will.
reasons.
January.
And he doesn't want Messi to take his Champions League records, which
He
Messi's
did
already
today.
started. But at the same point, Chelsea, the owners have the time and the patience for Potter, but
And
do
the
the
money.
fans. I don't think the fans have the time and the patience for Potter. And if he doesn't get them top 4, the fans will not be happy. But who do you bring in? My pick would have been before Potter. I would have said Pochettino.
Nah, no chance. No
Um,
way.
I just think he's managed a club like PSG. He's managed Tottenham.
And he did
He knows
nothing.
what the expectations like. But if Chelsea don't qualify from the group stage, will he go there? I have a feeling he still might. But let's not dwell on this because we could talk for hours on this. Let's go to Group F. Real Madrid on 6. Milan's top in the group in Group A with 4 points. Dinamo on 3. Salzburg 2. Chelsea 1. It's still anyone's group. Anyone can come first. Anyone can come last. There's no real dominance there. Group F. Real Madrid took on Red Bull Leipzig and defeated them 2-0. No Benzema, no problems. Valverde and Asensio. Asensio's goal. Wow. I don't know if you saw that. It was just a beautiful set play from a corner, and he just cracked it. But Real Madrid doing Real Madrid things. Shakhtar Donetsk took on Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, and we've got a soft spot here for Ange Postecoglou, Australian manager there in the
Chelsea did well. Celtic did well. Celtic actually did well. I know they didn't actually. I know they only got the goal through an own goal, but that was at Shakhtar's home as well. So they've got a few matches at home still. They should beat Leipzig, and they'll probably will beat Shakhtar at home. They gave Real Madrid a pretty good running for the first 50 minutes before the class of Real Madrid just came and ran over them. So I think Celtic's in with a pretty good chance to be able to get out of that group. It all depends on what Shakhtar will do at their next match as well.
And I was going to mention what Ian's spoken here. Keep an eye on Mudryk at Shakhtar. He does look impressive. It will be very impressive to see what he has to show there. And yes, Celtic did play well. They've played well both games. Ange has really come into this team as a manager and turned it all around for them. They're competitive on all fronts there. But not too much more to say there. Real Madrid on 6 points, Shakhtar second on 4, Celtic on 1, and RB Leipzig yet to register a single point. Let's move to Group G, where what was a phenomenal game in Manchester City. Manchester City were hosting Dortmund. Haaland faced his former team. Manchester City down 1-0 and through Jude Bellingham. But Stones' goal was just a bullet. It was phenomenal. And then in my head, I was like, nothing is going to top that in this match day for any of the teams. And then Cancelo just outside of the boot cross.
Yeah.
And Haaland, he must be doing Cirque du Soleil at home or something. Because he got his leg all the way up there. And out of respect for Dortmund, didn't celebrate. But not so much about the fixture. But is Haaland the key to the puzzle that Manchester City's been missing to get that elusive Champions League?
I think he can be, especially goal wise. Like now, you need to take into consideration Manchester City for so many years have been playing with a false nine, not with a unknown striker, so forth. Since Aguero has been past his day, and so forth. So that being the case, they've got a striker now who can run the line, who run between the lines, run behind the players, or you could lob it in and he can hit it with a header, or put his foot as high as his head and put it in the back of the net like he did this morning. Thank you, Bruno, for that acrobatic action.
Something.
That being the case, they've got something different. The only problem that I see with Manchester City is the fact that one, Pep can be a manager of his own demise with how good he actually is, and he can overmanage, as we've known and as he's done in the past. Also, the fact that their defense is always a little bit leaky. It's not as tight as and compact as what it could be, and they do leak some silly goals at times. Not that I'm saying it's their Achilles heel, but it could always use with a bit of improvement.
Look,
Bruno, you follow him more than me. Go.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you on that front, and I just feel their defense is so. With Manchester City, they played with the false nine for many years. They had Gabriel Jesus stepping into the 9 role, as well as Sterling at times. Before that, you had Aguero, one of the most prolific Premier League players ever. But yes, Akanji has come into the defense and he's been great for them. Manchester City as a whole, when they attack, the entire team attacks. That means Edison pushing up halfway between his goalpost and the halfway line. That means the defense is in the opposing team's half. The entire team attacks. Cancelo's whipping a ball in. Stones is there to put a bullet in. And that is where they get caught on the counter. But Haaland is the 9 City have needed, but he's not the goal scorer City need, because the goals were coming from absolutely everywhere when it comes to City. But now De Bruyne just kicks the ball and left, right, header. Haaland's putting them in. He scored 6 goals in 2 games in his last 2 Premier League games. So Akanji is a fantastic addition. But as a whole, that's where I was getting to. Hamza on the ball. We got to get you on this pod, bro. Hamza, you know your foot stuff, and you're getting my words out before I can. They defend as a unit, but as we know, when a unit defends well, it just takes that one weak link. And sometimes it's their overconfidence, and they just pass too many times. They pass too much. But when you see that unit moving as one, just like some perfectly constructed orchestra towards goal, doesn't matter if it's 10, 15, 50 passes, you just know there's a goal coming. And they did it against Crystal a couple of weeks ago where Haaland got the hat-trick and they were down 2-0. It's just one of those things where this team is ruthless defensively. They are ruthless in front of goal. It's they kick them when they're down. They don't care.
Okay.
And
all right. Let's go.
So
tell me. No. Is it too early to? I want to see some predictions. In all seriousness.
So the way I've been doing it is, who do I think could potentially be in the semi-finals?
Okay, give me 4.
Too early to call a winner here.
No, okay. Give me the semi-finals.
I'm going City. I'm going PSG. I'm going Bayern Munich. And who's Ronaldo? No, they're not in it. Napoli.
And who?
Napoli. But
Napoli.
Come to me after World Cup. It might be different. Based off match days 1 and 2, These are the teams that I see that have the ability to get there. Now, Real Madrid and Napoli are very close.
I would.
I
That'd be
just
my
feel
other. That would be my only other choice.
I just feel that Real Madrid have too much to lose at this World Cup. With almost every one of their players playing in this World Cup, they're one injury away from potential disaster. Whereas you look at that Champions League run last year, they had a solid team the entire way through. So they're my 5 teams, but right now I'd put Napoli in over Real Madrid just because they're consistent in their mentality. But let's not leave that there. Sevilla, they got a point against Copenhagen in what was a 1-1 draw, a boring 0-0 draw. So
With
group,
our favorite Australian goalkeeper Matt Ryan in the sticks for Copenhagen.
yes, true, and he'll be playing this World Cup.
He will be.
Well, you'd hope so. So Group G, Manchester City on top with 6 points, Dortmund with 3, and Copenhagen and Sevilla on 1 point. Group H, and the origination of our thumbnail for today. And before we get into that, Ian Kerr in the chat again. You do the comments, all right?
I was doing it.
Yeah, you handle the comments. We'll be, and this is what we're saying. It'll be interesting to see how the World Cup affects everyone. And not just injuries, but leading up to this World Cup, every player whose nation's in this World Cup, they're going heart and soul into this World Cup, trying to make the starting 11, trying to make that extended squad, trying to break into the international duty. So you're getting 150% out of these players who could potentially make this World Cup. Now, if we go back to the last World Cup, I believe was France-Croatia final, and France won. As an Inter fan, we saw how deflated the Croatians were after losing that World Cup.
Yep.
In the likes of Perisic, in the likes of Brozovic. And a terrible World Cup loss or elimination from a World Cup can really deflate in you. So the January transfer window is going to be fire. That's all I'm going to say. But yes, Group F, let's go to the first fixture of PSG taking on Maccabi Haifa. Halftime, we're worried, weren't we?
Definitely. My multi wasn't looking good at halftime, that's for sure. But of course, PSG with the skill, with the quality as you'd expect them to. Messi taking the record for most teams scored against. And also there was the other, I can't remember the other
most
record that he took. Most consecutive goals scored per Champions League seasons, 18 years.
He scored in 18 consecutive Champions League seasons all the way back to 2004. Wow.
So, yeah, he took that record over Ronaldo because obviously Ronaldo's not playing in the Champions League this year. So, yeah, what do you do, mate? That PSG, how they turned it on in the second half, to have Messi just doing what he needed to, you know, Neymar hitting form, Mbappe doing what Mbappe does, does best. And the continuity between that front three, yes, they've had some misfortunes and some misfiring at the beginning of the season, but this manager has them all singing from the same hymn sheet. Just clean, Sergio Ramos at the back, cleaning him up and making that defense a lot tighter compared to what it used to be. They can go far. They can definitely go far.
I think it was Alex Ferguson once said, I don't care if I concede as long as I score more goals. That's how I will win the game. And it sounds stupid because that's what football is. But when you've got a front three like this, you can afford to concede 1 goal or 2 goals because you're putting 3 or 4 past them. And Hamza on the ball there, Zelinski for Poland, Kim for Korea. But yeah, so it sounded stupid when he said it, but I don't care if I concede that 1 goal. because I know I've got 3 or 4 in me. And this front three, they're phenomenal. But let's go to João Mario, who was a Sporting junior playing for Benfica, scoring the penalty. It was our thumbnail.
Ian, that's out. The reason why our thumbnail was this. We had a bit of an argument between the group chat, but I got my say.
He put on a show and he did the most Inter thing. But he wasn't even wearing an Inter jersey.
Doesn't need to be.
He's not being an Inter fan and having him there isn't the reason that's the thumb. The reason that I chose João Mario as the thumb and the final match we're talking about before we end today is when PSG defeated Juventus. Allegri came out and said, "We don't need to beat PSG. The only team in the group I need to beat is Benfica. And that's what we're going to do." And
this is the one I put my hand up for as well.
And João Mario, he's like, "I was listening. You needed to beat who? Who'd you need to beat?
Yeah.
Benfica? Well, we just beat you." And it just shows where Juventus is at. Because in what word can a manager say, "I don't care if we lost that. We were never planning on winning that." I think we all do. But my point isn't to anything else other than what type of manager is Allegri? If he turns around and says, "I don't mind losing to PSG. We never really wanted to win that." And this is all paraphrased, of course, because I don't listen to half the crap that comes out of his mouth. But this is all paraphrased. What type of top club? You're meant to be one of the most elite clubs in the world. Can you use that as an excuse? How can you admit defeat before the battle's even commenced? It shows
sorry, Bruno. Just want
No, you go.
So it was reported today after the game, the sporting director of Juventus and who was it again today? Benfica. Sorry, thank you. We're at lunch together, and during that time, a supporter had gone up to or screamed out, "What are you doing? Get rid of Allegri." And the sporting director of Juventus had come out and said, "You pay for the next manager's wages." So that is already implying they know that they've dug themselves a hole with Allegri. But he's still on a 3.5-year contract on $9 million a year. He cannot be sacked because the expense after taxes that they have to pay out to get rid of him is huge, which Juventus are the Premier League side of the Serie A in the sense. Yes, okay, let's say it that way. That being the case, they are that cash strung, like the rest of the Serie A, that they cannot get rid of Allegri as yet because they purely can't afford to pay him out for the next 3.5 years.
Look, we might be bagging this team out, but if any team's able to pull something out of a hat, it is Juventus. To qualify out of this group, they've got the team. I just think the mentality of this manager is not there. And yeah, exactly. Dybala's fit so far this entire season for Roma, but he couldn't play 2 fixtures without being injured. You know, Di Maria played 1 game injured. And it happened at Inter as well. And what happened, they hired entirely new physios and medical staff out back, and it just changed everything. And there's problems there. But it comes down to the manager. And yes, it's been close to 20 years since the last Juve Banta era. But at the same time, if this was my manager of any club I support, I'd want him out. You don't go and play for a draw. You don't go and I don't care if we lose this. This is the Champions League. A loss in the Champions League is something along the lines of 4 million euros you lose.
Also, just to remember as well, Allegri came out and said last year that I don't care if I win 1-0. I don't care if I win 2-0. It's not about any of that. As long as I win.
Yeah.
But hold on. How many games has he won this season?
I don't know. He didn't win he hasn't won a single point in the Champions League. And domestically, they're sitting on 2 wins from 6 with 4 draws. They're yet to lose.
He has won 20% of his games this season. 20%.
Domestically, he's undefeated. But
2 wins,
Champions League
4 draws, 2 losses.
He has to go. Surely results aren't good enough. And look,
right,
if
guys,
this was,
we could keep going.
yeah, this could be for anyone. But I just, as a supporter of any club, to hear your manager saying this, it would be very disheartening. As a supporter of any other club within the Italian league, Hamza hit the nail on the head. You want Allegri to stay. This guy at the moment, I feel like he's got no direction. He's got Dory syndrome where he forgets what he's doing half the time. But a great fixture for the neutral, especially if you're expecting Juventus. I don't say that happening, but anything's possible. They were robbed on the weekend of a goal. It's football. It happens.
So just on that, I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but it came out and said that game will. Thank you, Mattia. That game will actually be replayed. Oh no! I got scammed. I just remembered this. Yeah, they said it was the 30th of February. I just remembered it. I remember. See, this is the thing. Before we get on, we try to do all of our homework and everything. And then you read so many texts and so many messages and this and that, try to get across all the information. And that one popped in my head when it was absolutely bullshit.
Now, look. Just to wrap out the final group of the Champions League group stage, you have PSG on first with Benfica on 6 points each, both sharing a goal difference of +3. Juventus and Maccabi Haifa on 0 points. So it is an uphill battle for Juventus, but it is still possible. This has been a fantastic stream. We've been going for an hour 15, but the conversation's been brilliant. The interaction, Hamza, if you're interested, would love to have you in on a stream. That goes for anyone, really. We're
gonna get you in as well, Mattia.
Ian's messaged me saying, "Boys, I've got my streaming gear ready, so we'll be holding to you that we'll be holding that to you, Ian. Next week, I'm sure Jonathan would love to join in. We'll talk all things European football, domestic. There'll be a lot to break down. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. Be sure to follow us on our socials because we will be announcing some rolling shows coming through for the World Cup when it does come around. Don't forget to catch Anthony on Serie A Roundtable where it's just great content. The best Serie A podcast there is. I think that's all for tonight.
I have had such a good time tonight. So, guys, just so you know, it's 9:45 on a wet Sydney night. I've got my little ones asleep. I've had to put into bed before jumping on. But this has been such a great conversation, guys. You've absolutely blown up our comments section, which has been such a thrill. I've really enjoyed it. This has been probably my favorite video that we've done. Andrew, Chichi, I'll see you soon, buddy. Guys, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on the next time. But from me and Bruno, thank you so much. All the best. Ciao.
Ciao.